All these new technologies brought a deeper understanding of something scientists had known for years, that the surface of our Earth constantly changes. Sometimes the changes occur quickly, within minutes, hours, or days. Other times they happen so slowly we do not see them. In any event, there are 5 ways the lands on our Earth change: through weathering, erosion, landmass motion, volcanic eruptions, and earth crust movement. Earth crust movement has been taking place for millions of years. In fact, many scientists believe that somewhere between 300 million and 180 million years ago, the Earth had only one large landmass, called Pangaea. It sat alone in a vast ocean. Then, very slowly, Pangaea split apart. Over millions of years, its pieces formed today's 7 continents. Continental movement continues to this very day, although so slowly it is seldom noticeable, except during earthquakes, which occur when huge sections of the Earth's crust, the top layer of our planet, move. Geologists, scientists who study the Earth's crust, believe that this outer portion of our planet is composed of 6 large structures called tectonic plates, as well as a number of smaller ones. 5 to 25 miles deep, or about 8 to 40 kilometers deep, these plates shift on the Earth's mantle, a hot pool of molten rock that stretches downward from the Earth's crust almost 1,300 miles, or about 2,100 kilometers. Earthquakes generally occur where the plates meet, when they move in one of 3 directions. Sometimes the plates pull apart. Sometimes they slide against each other. And sometimes they collide. Earthquakes can be extremely destructive and deadly. There are about 8,000 quakes each year, but only about 1,100 are strong enough to be felt. Of that number, only about 40 result in major damage and death. Burst natural gas lines that explode, houses and other buildings that collapse, highways and bridges that give way. All can result from shifts in the Earth's crust. As already mentioned, these shifts often occur at or near tectonic plate edges. When those shifts take place on the ocean floor, the energy released can push the water upward, creating huge waves known as tsunamis. When these walls of water hit coastal areas, there can be terrible destruction. The Himalaya mountain range of Asia is an example of how landforms can be created, not destroyed, by earth crust movement. At one time, there were no Himalaya mountains. A vast flat plain stretched northward and northeastward from the Indian subcontinent. 2 tectonic plates, the Indian and the Eurasian, met near the center of the plain. Some 50 million years ago, they began to push against each other. As they did, the area at the tip of the Indian plate was forced upward, creating the Himalayas. Besides earth crust movement, volcanic eruptions are another way that the Earth's surface can change. Volcanoes begin when magma, or hot liquefied rock and metals, push upward to a magma chamber. Hot gases also gather in the chamber. If the magma and gases continue to build, they are propelled upward through one or more vents. In time, the molten material reaches the surface, where it can explode with enormous force, sometimes blowing away whole portions of a mountain. At the same time, lava, which is magma that reaches the surface, may spill from the vent. This substance can be extremely destructive because it burns and instantly kills everything in its pathway. Huge areas of desolate landscape made of cooled, solidified lava are found in many locations where volcanoes have erupted. The world's most active earthquake and volcano region, the so-called Ring of Fire, forms an arc around the Pacific Ocean. Each year, about 80% of the world's most destructive earthquakes and the vast majority of its volcanic eruptions take place along the Ring of Fire. While volcanoes can destroy landforms, they also can create them. The Hawaiian Islands were created by a series of volcanic eruptions that began millions of years ago on the ocean floor. Today, the result is one of the most beautiful places on Earth, a tropical paradise. So far, we've discussed two ways land can change: earth crust movement and volcanic eruptions. Now, let's look at weathering. Weathering can occur when rainwater enters a crack in a rock. If the weather turns cold enough, the water will freeze and expand. The ice will then push against the walls of the crack with such force, small pieces may break away. Something similar happens when plant roots grow in the crack of a rock or boulder. Another type of weathering takes place when water dissolves the minerals in rocks. The sand on most beaches is the result of this type of weathering. Erosion is the fourth type of land change that occurs in the Earth's crust. Erosion is a combination of weathering and the movement of weathered material from one place to another. The Grand Canyon in Arizona is perhaps the most dramatic example of erosion. The Colorado River has been the principal agent of erosion in the Grand Canyon. For millions of years, its waters have broken away bits of rock and carried them downstream. The river has cut a 1 mile, or 1.6 kilometer, deep chasm into the earth. Deltas, areas where rivers flow into an ocean or sea, show another way erosion can change the Earth's crust. The soil picked up by the river and then carried downstream ends up in delta regions, creating headlands and beaches. Sometimes sandbars and even cliffs are formed. Erosion also can take place underground. Water can create deep caverns, and mineral deposits left behind can build up into beautiful icicle-like rock formations. The movement of glaciers, often so slow it cannot be detected by the human eye, is still another way that erosion can take place. Glaciers often smooth out the land as they slowly move along, grinding and pushing rocks, boulders, and plants that get in their way. The northern plains of the United States were formed hundreds of thousands of years ago when huge glaciers slid over the land and smoothed it out. Erosion also can occur when winds blow. Wind carries dust and sand from one place to another, and sand particles blown by the wind can scrape and wear away rocks. In some places, most notably North Africa, piles of sand or sand dunes have moved outward from the desert and have covered farmland. As you might imagine, the destruction of cropland through this so-called desertification, or creation of desert lands, is a serious problem because it destroys much-needed farm acreage. Land mass motion is the final category of changes in the Earth's crust. Land mass movements, mudslides and landslides, usually take place on steep slopes, often during very heavy rainfalls that wash away soil.